Hello and good afternoon all. Thanks for joining today to learn a little bit more about 2020 Manager, our newest product that's been launched to market. This series you've joined today is a three-part series. Last week we learned a little bit about how to set Manager up and how it's fit to your business. This week we're going to learn about how Manager can help you stay productive and some tips and tricks. And then next week we'll be covering a little more to help keep your team on track. So I encourage you all to come back again for those future sessions. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking and discussing in a collaborative way today. So I have a few examples we're going to talk about in terms of best practices and things we see our users do. But if there's something you've been wanting to see or have a question on, feel free to drop any question in the chat you may have, and we'll pause from time to time. But at the end, we'll reserve a good portion for Q&A. So with that said, let's go ahead and just jump quickly into the agenda, which, as mentioned, we're going to be going over the overview of what Manager is, just to give you a quick baseline if some of you haven't started your trial yet, and then talk about those best practices. So with that said, what really is 2020 Manager? Well, if you're familiar with the term customer relationship management or business process management, some in the industry throw those terms around, but essentially it's a way for you to manage the business side of the customers you're designing new projects for. So there's lots of other tools that help you manage parts of the customer journey. Chances are you may be using, several for parts of managing your quotes and your process, things like whiteboards and spreadsheets, calendars and just different web programs. What's great about Manager, and really a great place to start of why Manager is set apart from any of these other tools, is Manager is the one business process solution that's built with 2020 customers in mind. And when I say that, it leverages your existing 2020 cloud account. So if you log in with your Design Live account, it will be the same login that you use to activate Manager. And it's also the endpoint that syncs designs between the two. So the value of this means if you create something beautiful in Design Live, you can take all of that data, the pricing, the items, the catalogs, all of that information you've designed, and pull it over into this type of technology to no longer have to go to multiple tools to, say, generate a quote. You can take that data, apply some pricing controls, and accelerate the process right into a quote that you can share with your customer. So it's all templatized and very customizable for you. With that said, really, I'm assuming most of you, again, know what Manager is. I think the core of our focus today is, again, helping you be successful once you're using your Manager account. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up my existing Manager account that I use internally for my own testing and webinars and demos and those types of things. But chances are, if you've logged in for the first time and you showed up on the last web session, you may have done some of the best practices for setup. So I encourage you, if you haven't, we'll be sharing that video for that after our series is over. So I always encourage you to reference back at what we've talked about in the past. But really, we can cover some best practices for setup as well if you have questions. But at this point of our webinar series, you've got your account set up. You have some customers perhaps loaded into your project dashboard. And what you'll see here is kind of a running snapshot list of all the projects going on across my business. So obviously I can filter by my projects or across the team. But there's a number of other filters I'm pleased to show you here in just a minute that are recently being added. But essentially, you have a high-level glance at what's going on across your business. You can control and sort these projects and really get a great understanding and view from a high level. But let's just say you work with a builder and they do lots of projects. So maybe it's great that I see, maybe Sarah Clark here that was created today for an example. But you see a couple other names that are common. Again, this is a demo account, but the example is real. Let's just say I work with a builder named Al Green, and he has lots of different projects. If I need to go up and pull additional details about this customer, you can always, again, go to the homepage, pull up the project you're looking for. But let's just say I have lots of projects and things going on all over. They're a repeat customer. I even know a little bit about their family. I can record some of their contacts in here. But I guess the thing I'd like to highlight here is the way we group our different projects underneath your contact. So what'll happen is as you create multiple different projects and link them to a particular customer, you can come into, again, your contact and click on projects, and you can pull up all of the past projects you've worked on. And let's just say, click on the individual project and link back into that group of work that you're looking for. So again, a small trick, but just understanding, whether you start on your homepage and you want to glance through all of your different projects you're working through, but as that gets big, it's, there's a lot going on. Maybe different customers have worked with that builder. I can see in a glance what's going on with that particular customer, and it's a great way to understand, those types of things that are going on for that individual person. What else can we gain understanding from by looking at this contact? You'll also notice a running history of any documents, any files, any information that's been shared specific to their projects. So this will include, kit files, XML data about the items on your design itself. Maybe you took a picture on site when you were doing measurements. All of these things are stored under the contact as well. And I can add files in here directly from my contact page. A couple other highlights in the same flavor, I guess you would say. I showed you linking from the contact and seeing all of the past documents. But if I want to go to just that individual project and see any of the documents created and associated with that person, I can click on the attachment section in the global project area here, and I'll see a list of any of those, templatized, contract, quote, perhaps the design file itself, and even a survey. But I would say you can also add these manually. So coming next week, so right now I'm in our production version, the version you see. But coming next week, this is our internal, our staging environment, we call it, where we get things ready to be released to the new environment. And there's constantly changes coming in here. But coming next week, in your attachment section, you'll have a plus button as well. And what that means is, while I'm going through, obviously, and I attach a kit file, that'll show in here. If I generate a quote, that'll show in here. But let's just say you have someone on site taking measurements, and they have images, and they want to attach this, and they're on the field, and they don't want to lose any of that information. I can come in here and drag and drop these files directly into the folder. A good example, let me see if I have an image. Here's an old kitchen image I have. So I'll attach an image of the inspiration of the customer. So I now have that image also stored underneath my attachment section. Now I can download and print it. I can also just kind of click on it, and it'll pull up a nice little preview for any of these documents that are stored. But again, I see kind of what the image is. I can zoom in, and it's just a nice way to stay organized and really be productive, because I don't know about you, but when I try to manage my relationships with different contacts, it's one thing if it's helping me, but it's another thing if it's helping my entire team. And if I store and organize this in a way that it's easily accessible, then other people at the company can take advantage of what we've already completed and added. So if I'm the business owner and I want to see what progress we're making with Mr. Bennett here, I can see all of those documents, things that were added, who added it, and really have a nice visibility into what's going on for the person and for my employees. So a couple other examples that I think are really valuable to our customers. Let's go ahead and click back to our production environment. As you go through your workflow progression, as you've seen, you have, as mentioned, you have the contract template, for instance, and the quote document, for instance, as well. That out of the box, Manager comes with templates that are specific to take that information from your design, pull in the pricing and any of your controls, and put it into a nice quote or a nice contract. But one of the great features you get with your trial of Manager and with your Foundation Edition account is the ability to customize these documents and the ability to customize those surveys. Now, I'd like to take the moment to show you where this is and give you some tips in trying to make these things your own. But in here, you'll notice there's a number of documents that are available. We're going to focus today on these two types, which is the contract and the quote itself. You'll see I can sort these different category documents and pull up, any template that I have saved. I can also create them and add them from scratch. But this is a really advanced tool that's very powerful, and it has tremendous flexibility. So essentially, any data that we have from your contact or from your kit file, from the design itself, all of that data is available and able to be displayed, automated through this template process. So if you're generating a quote and you want to make that quote a little bit different for your business, you can. So again, you can create your own, but my advice for starting up your own would be to come into one of the existing ones, and there's a duplicate button right here underneath at the bottom of each of the documents. So let's, a good example, kind of an easy one that you can all relate to is the contract template. So I'll go ahead and I'll click duplicate, and I'll name new contract. So I can't type and speak at the same time, but I have, let's focus in on the contract here. I have the new contract template right here that I just duplicated. So I can start from scratch, but let's take what's there and modify it to make it better, I guess is my tip from an easy way to start to make these things more personalized. So my example, if I click in here, you could open this up and it seems like, wow, there's so much here. Where do I begin? So again, we're starting with a template that is already pulling in a lot of great information, and we'll see it once it's actually populated with data. But let's use our imagination here. In the contract, we pull in a number of things. We pull in the deal number, the salesperson who sold it, their phone number, their email, the date, and all of these things in brackets are the data points that are available to pull in. So I can come into different categories and say, I want to pull in a description of the items I'm selling. So I can click that button, and it will add the item description tag right there in the table and pull that data in there. Now, that may or may not be a powerful update or realistic contract update. We can help you with all of your contract. I would say our support team, if you ever have questions, you can click on support and reach out directly and get help with this. I like to think that I can make myself available, and as things go, we have others on our team that are able to help you personalize. But here's something I think you all would do is my terms and conditions. I know it's the fine print, right? It's very small, but I guess the point is we all live in different areas, and in each area we have our own laws and our own rules. And let's just say I come in here and I need to add an additional clause to say no refunds. Again, I joke, but you can make these, these contracts are your contracts. They should match up what you typically use and share with a customer, so you can reduce, add to, whatever you need to make this the contract you need. But I'll save this, and now I have a contract that's specific to my business, not specific to the out of the box that, again, it's legally binding. We've had it reviewed with our own attorneys, but again, there's different laws in different states, different countries. So I encourage you to take advantage. If you make this small customization, you will be much more productive, because you can take what you've already designed and not have to go to lots of tools to say, add an image, calculate my price, and drag some different information in. No, it just simply takes what you already have, pulls it in a template, and gives you something nice to send to your customers. One other tip related to that, we talked about this last week, but it's such an easy one that I recommend you all do it, is come in and click on the settings and then the company tab, and you can come in and update the logo. And the reason I call this out right now is you just saw that custom document for the contract and the quote. If I have my logo in here, it will pull that right into my contract template, so it's even more personalized. So let's kind of give you a quick preview, and then we could talk about some more use cases, but a quick workflow preview here. I'm going to come in here and choose an existing contact. I can start from scratch, but you'll notice as I start typing in a contact, if they're already in my system, it'll focus. I'm going to choose Mr. James Appleberry, but essentially I've worked with them in the past. I have some information. I'll choose that contact, save, and that will allow me to, again, progress to the next stage of the workflow. You may have already seen this, but similar to the quote and contract, I have a survey here that, out of the box, all of these questions are optional. So I can take a little details about the space, their preferences, and their budget when they're looking to start. But you can customize this as well, just like those documents, where you can change these questions to be specific to your business and your process. Now we'll come back to that if we have time at the end, and I can show you that depending on how much time we have left with questions. But we'll progress here. I've added a survey. So at this point, I understand customer that it's now a lead that has a new project they'd like to do. I've kind of got a little bit about their scope. Now I'd like to choose a design and attach the design, as mentioned, into my project. So if I'll go through this rather quickly, as most of you probably are aware, but this is where you come into Design Live as it sits today, and you'll notice there's the presentation tab over the top. So you click presentation, your design's created, and you click send to 2020 manager. And what that does is it packages up all of that contextual data about the items, the catalogs, the pricing, the space itself, and it sends it into manager. And it's now stored underneath CRM Receive Designs. But I don't have to go anywhere else to access it. It's all available in the workflow. So I can come in here and click Add Design, and it will pull up the designs that I have, and I can choose one or multiple designs to attach to this project. So I get a little information, the catalogs, the types of styles, the number of items. I can always click on this and edit the item list. Let's just say, perhaps I don't sell countertops, but I wanted countertops in my design. So maybe if I wanted to hide this or not show it on an itemized quote, I could come in here, delete it, or I can edit the description. You have flexibility. I can add new items into an existing design if I want to as well, just by clicking add item. But if you don't always have a design, which people sometimes don't, you can click add space, and it will allow you to name what you're looking to order, order, and set a quantity, and then I can add items directly to this. So I can come in and choose individual items similar to how I add from the design. So the nice thing is it's flexible. I can bring my design in with a couple of clicks, turn it into a quote very quickly. If I have a builder that I work with that comes in all the time and they tell me I need 10 doorknobs because I forgot to put it on my order, I can come in here and order 10 doorknobs, and I still have all of that information in my record book with or without a design. But let's progress. Completed the design, and at this point, this is kind of where those custom documents come in. So I'll show you what I mean. But if you click quote, you get the two controls you need to do to generate a quote. So I need to have a means of paying for it. So for payment conditions, I'm going to have one installment. You can have, or let's just say 3 installments for 30 days each, starting on the 1st of the month. Generate those installments, and it creates 3 evenly divided payments. Let's say I want to, I charge 50% up front. I can mark 50%, and it will update those percentages to reflect. So great, I've now set how I want to pay for it. Now I have my pricing. So it's going to pull in all of your price data that you've established from Design Live. So whether it's just the list price or what you've marked up, it will pull over that pricing, and I can apply additional price controls to this. What does that mean? Well, I have my markup, and it gives me a retail price. So I have my design file plus my markup, I have a retail price. I can then discount this price. Let's just say I'm doing a 10% special. I can click and it'll update that right in line. Now, those of you who were here last week, you would see the fact that we have a major update to those pricing controls coming out that are going to make it even more powerful. But more and more, those controls around pricing and business controls are going to be migrating into Manager, whereas Design Live's a great design tool. Manager is kind of the business side of the coin. So more on that later. But what have we done? Learned about a customer. We created a design for them. I applied some pricing and some controls, and now I have it pulled into an itemized quote. So you'll see right now, this is itemized. This has all of my pricing information because perhaps I wanted an itemized quote. By default, you have the non-itemized quote in your account. But again, the important thing to realize is out of the box, it's ready to go. But if you want to change this to make it your own, add a logo and you'll have your business logo. Change some of the data, change any of the fields, you have that control and you can make it your own. Now, if I need to edit this just because it's one customer I'm doing differently, I don't have to rely on the template alone. I can come in, and so it starts out on the preview after you generate it, but I can click the edit as you just saw, and I can, so this is the preview mode, but if I click edit, I can change any of these details on the quote itself. So this is another great tip to be more productive. I don't have to go and edit my template each time. I don't, you can, and you can make the template you want. But if I want to come in and just add some more details, I very quickly can. Obviously, I'm typing gibberish here, but I think you get the idea. I can make this my own template and fit to how I want my quote to display. And this is the power that you won't see anywhere else, because again, as opposed to creating a design, manually calculating the price, putting it in an Excel file, maybe dragging images in, and then creating a PDF, you've cut out all of that middle work in just a couple of clicks. And I click back and forth too many times. Let's see. So it's generated, and I have my quote here. So as we just saw, I can download that and access it. But once I've approved the quote, once the customers said, all right, let's move forward, that will unlock them to go to the next stage of the workflow. And I'm going to click to the contract phase. So this is where we just saw, we just created that new contract we were talking about. So you'll see I have the existing one. I can delete that if I don't want to, after I make something new, I can switch it inactive or what have you. But now I got my new contract. I am working in an area that allows me to, have the rule of no refunds. Again, it's a little small because of the preview pane, I'm sure you can see, but that tiny little speck there on your screen of in the preview there saying that essentially that once you generate it, it's all available from the document perspective. It is able to be downloaded or printed directly. And then next week you have the same thing, but also previews of it that show in line as well. So it's all very intuitive and organized and stored underneath your existing project. But if I ever need to get back to this and I don't want to, I can't remember, was it the project I did this week or the project I did last month? I can go back to that contact like we saw, and I can pull up those details and go directly to all of the list of past work. So I want you guys, again, you guys get the idea, but I'll take a breath. We have a few more examples, but I guess, again, remind anyone that's here, if they have specific questions, something they would like to see, or any additional preview, feel free to drop it in the chat and we can go over those too. But just checking my list here, a couple of other call outs I'd like to draw attention to. Underneath the settings tab, there is the operations. Now this is something that we talked about last week as well. So as you import that design, you have excuse me here, clicking back into the other version. You have the pricing controls here. So let me give you a little side-by-side here. Sorry for the clicking back and forth, but if I want to show you the version we have today versus the version tomorrow, or excuse me, the version coming out this week, the update. But in the design, excuse me, in the quote phase, we pull up and you notice I have my unit price, the markup, which I put in that operations area. We'll go back there in just a minute. My retail price, discount, and the final price. Well, coming next week, we'll have that unit price with those automated markups applied, and then the ability to manually apply additional markups. So let's just say I want to charge an extra $100 because of a fuel surcharge. I can add those additional markups in here to further manipulate the retail price. And then I can, again, the markups, the user sees the retail price, then discounted. I'm going to give them a, you can show a discount if I wanted to give them that. But you get the idea. You have full flexibility on pricing. And also, so you see these improvements we have coming on pricing here today. But also, this is another slide I was hoping to cover, but additionally, you can see the evolution here of our pricing controls. So today, you have your automated controls. This coming week, we have the ability to add those markups in here directly. And then coming in the I would say in the quarterly range, in this next, weeks to months here, we have the big improvements to really say managers becoming the home for controlling things like pricing. So you saw what we have today. Well, you have all of those itemized markup controls in front of you so you can understand what's being charged. You have those full additional markups like you saw, but also adding charges for multiple different charges and multiple discounts, and then including my tax in there as well. So it kind of reads like a receipt. So as you go down, I have my unit price to get me to my retail price. After all of my charges are applied, I have my subtotal. And then finally, after tax, I have a total. But I guess the vision I'm trying to convey here is manager is going to be that home place for where you can take what you're already designing and turn it into quotes, turn it into contracts, We also have the functionality to say after we've completed it, you'll notice today, let me see here. If I sign my contract, mark it signed, that's the end of the active state of the project. Obviously, you may still be working with the customer, but it doesn't count against your 10 project limit. But it's important to know that that is the step that completes it. But as you all have probably seen, there's this big payment button here that is an optional feature. If you were at our annual trade show, KBIS, you would have heard about 2020 Pay. But essentially, in a few short weeks, you'll have the option to say all of these designs, all of these quotes and contracts that have been signed off, I can now say, oh, those payments that I established, I'll show you what it looks like in our staging environment. Those payments that I just established for saying, oh, I'm going to have 3 payments and the installments and how they're going to pay for them. Essentially, you'll have the payment step available to you. It's optional, where there's no cost to enable it. There is transaction fees if you use it, but it's very comparable to any payment processor, any any system you may use to process payments. It's in terms of your transactional fees. But the convenience of having it all in the project of where you work is a value that really is unique to 2020. So in here, I can, again, I have a couple cash payments that I've recorded. I can, so obviously I'm going to record the cash payments as paid, but let's just say they wanted to do a credit card transfer or a bank transfer. I can create that as the method for the payment, and I can send that payment out directly to the customer we've created the project for. So you can scan the QR code. The email by default goes out, and I can check out like you would check out on Amazon. But you can also copy the link and drop it into the web page here. And so there's multiple different ways to pay for your projects. But the point is, you have the flexibility to control and to facilitate these payments as part of your process in Manager without any additional setup or work. It's just simply once 2020 Pay becomes available, there'll be a step to activate it in your pay window here today. So I encourage you guys to, grow with 2020, grow with Manager. But I think as we progress, 2020 Pay will allow us to pay. And then also on our roadmap, you'll be able to send that to your manufacturer. So not only have I, created this great project, I can split all of the items across the catalogs and send them directly to those suppliers that can then receive those orders and in the future acknowledge them back into 2020 Manager. So again, I encourage you guys to take advantage, and Manager's got a ton of value right now, but I think as it grows, again, it becomes more and more that place where you can centralize these great business tools for your company. Okay, where does that leave us? I did mention the pricing operations. Let's go back there. So as it sits today, I have the operations to add a company operation, an item category operation, and a supplier operation. Essentially, these are pricing controls that say, as you pull in that design file, if I do a company markup, I could say standard price, and I do an automatic increase of 30% on my orders because that's the cost of doing business. And I'm going to apply it to all of my items in my space. Essentially, whether I want it hidden or not, or whether I want it active or not, this allows me to control all these pricing operations that are automatically applied. So again, as we're in those projects and we're looking to create that quote and control that quote, this feeds into what you see here. So if I established a 43% markup, that 43% will calculate and give me my retail price there. But again, come next week, I can add additional manual. And then like I had just shown you, the additional controls are going to continue to migrate and advance here. So there's a number of fantastic pricing controls that are going to get more and more powerful as Manager evolves. All right, time for some questions. All righty, so see here. The contact project limit. How do I make sure I'm not being charged and not running out of projects? It's a really good question. We touched on it a little bit, but in your Manager projects, if you've trialed Manager, by default, you get the full paid version that allows you to customize and have unlimited projects. Now, after 30 days, if let's say you're a smaller company or you haven't decided to upgrade yet, that's okay. You don't lose any of this data. You don't lose any of your control or functionality. Now, you can't make additional changes to create new custom documents anymore, but the ones you created will still be available to you. But the idea is, in that starter version, the one that's included with Design Live, there's a limit to 10 active projects for my company at any given time. So what that means is I can use Manager full functionality and never be restricted. But if I'm creating projects, if I create more than 10, I'll get a pop-up to say upgrade to the paid version. Now, if I have an active project, the Mr. Appleberry we were just working on, and I close that deal, which is completed by marking it signed in the contract step, then I get that project back, and I now have another project available to my team. It's a long explanation, and I'll show you a slide here. But again, this is just to kind of illustrate that flow to you really explicitly. You start out a trial in the Foundation Edition. You don't have that 10 project limit, and I can customize that workflow, custom documents and surveys, and there's more controls coming. That 2020 pay feature is available to either account, and it's optional. Whoops, it's optional. So this feature will be available to you regardless of your account level. But after your 30 days, if you haven't renewed your Foundation Edition, you keep everything you've created, all of your data, and all of those controls are still available to you. It's just if you grow to the point where you are really having a ton of projects, we hope you would upgrade and take advantage. But also, as mentioned, we have a ton of great functionality coming, extending to the manufacturer and things that will be customized as part of that Foundation Edition. So where does this leave us? Again, I encourage all of you to visit the website, manager.2020spaces.com, to log in or to activate that trial. You can register there directly just by entering your Design Live credentials if you're an admin, and it will activate your account right there. So for your trial. So hopefully that answers your question a little more than you were probably asking for, but I think that was a really helpful question for the group. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, I'm getting asked about calendar functionality and how I sync my calendar. This is a really good question. So you'll notice I'm pulling up my calendar here, and I have some controls over the top of my page here. And I'll give you a preview of what this looks like. So over the top, I can see daily view, weekly view, or a monthly view, a lot like Microsoft Outlook. And I can add calendar events directly into this calendar by hitting this button and creating a calendar invite. Can reference team members. If I reference the project I'm working on, it will sync underneath their calendar events here. But I think more importantly, the question you were asking for is how do I sync my calendar so everything shows up across my team? Which we have a full integration with Microsoft Outlook and Gmail. Essentially, you come into your user choose the type of account they want. You add it, and it will take me to log in directly to that third-party application to sync their data here. Pardon me for the load. I didn't want to save that. But the idea is, so we'll give it a second to load it. It does take a second here. The server time and all that's improving. But I guess the real power of this is I have all of my team members across the board. Again, this is only my calendar just for illustration purposes. But I can click and choose different individuals. And as I look at the weekly view, I can see exactly color coded. Obviously, I'm gray, but all my different users, I would see color coded who has what going on across the business at any given time. So if I have an install or a, say I have a company card that I want to assign, I can assign that to the project actually, and it will fill in with all of their calendar. And this calendar, it works both ways. So it will sync anything created in here into your Outlook or Gmail, and vice versa. So if you create something there, it'll show up. But regardless, you have your control and visibility to understand at any time what's going on across the business. It's a really good question. All right, let's see here. We talked licensing. See any other questions? We talked the logo, okay. Well, I think that's the entirety of our questions that I have so far. I have a couple last slides I'm going to put up, and if you think of any last questions, drop them in the chat. But where we left off, again, I encourage everyone to go to manager.2020spaces.com. And also, so you're on our Thursday edition of this 3-part series. We will be, again, together next week at this time to cover, I think, staying on track. You'd have to pull up the agenda. The attention I'd like to draw to, though, is we do have a weekly webinar of 2020 Manager every Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, where if you've signed up for Manager, you would have gotten an email in your inbox that has a link to this. This is a little bit more of an open forum on a weekly basis. So let's just say you have a question unrelated to staying productive and you just you didn't get a chance to ask it today. Come out to that general session and we talk a little more generically about 2020 Manager. So again, today, very specific of some specific examples, but that weekly webinar is kind of an ongoing thing. So if you ever have questions, feel free to join and we're happy to help you with that. Again, appreciate everybody's time. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and hope that if you haven't tried 2020 Manager, you would give it a shot. And if you are using Manager, I would encourage you to continue to learn more, ask questions, and then if you, say you don't like webinars or being on a public forum, if you have questions and you just want to get, some direct support, I encourage you to click on the Getting Started guide, which will link some best practices tips, as well as some FAQs and the full Knowledge Center and some helpful links. With that said, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you all again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.